ReconAthlete.com podcast is brought to you by Lawnman ATX and Kreitz Market. Recon Athlete podcast, episode number 34. We're getting into the holiday spirit here, Zach. What do you think?
Hey, it's only a few days, man.
Have you done your Christmas shopping yet?
Like probably maybe 3/4 done.
Who all do you have to get?
My mom, my sister, my dad, my special friend.
Special friend. Oh, okay. What's up?
And that's it.
Okay. Paul, you done Christmas shopping?
I need to get my mom and my dad, but everybody else is done.
Yo, dads are the worst. Dads are so hard to buy for, I feel like.
You think so?
Gift cards, bro.
So,
Yeah, I like gift cards.
Academy. My dad, Academy. That's easy. That's always easy.
Yo, and then now that I'm like working and stuff, my mom is like, all the expensive gifts that she wants, like that she needs to get for my sister or herself or my dad. She's like, oh, well, you can get your dad this. It's this $100. And I'm like, what are you going to get? And he's like, oh, he really wanted these socks. I think I'm going to get him that. I don't want to buy him that. I'm going to buy him the socks. Last year, I surprised him with Sugar Bowl tickets.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up.
So I feel like this is going to be like the down year, It was like last year I like kind of like went all out a little bit.
You set the bar pretty high.
So this year I'm gonna like all right, Dad. That like gift last year was for 2 Christmases.
Oh, okay.
So this one's gonna be something light.
This will be a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. Okay. But low-key, my mom said he wants. He was like, well, he really wants. If you're not gonna buy him this chainsaw that she said she wanted, that was like kind of expensive. She was like, he wants this digital picture frame, and she was like, and that's only like $20. Those hoes are not $20. Those things are like $60. I was like, my dad don't even know how to use that.
Nah, man. No. My dad wouldn't either. So, well, hopefully we'll get out and do some Christmas shopping today.
Buy him an iPod Touch.
There you go. That thing's as thick as a wallet.
That's the same thing. That's a digital picture frame right there.
Have you seen that new app that turns your iPhone into like an iPod Generation 1? Yeah, it looks, the face just turns into that interface back in the day.
ReconAthlete.com podcast episode number 34. We're going to talk a little bit of state semifinals happening this afternoon. Lake Travis and North Shore, and also Westlake and Katy Taylor. Talk some a little bit of Heisman Trophy, but I think we all know who's going to win that this afternoon or this evening, and do some NFL Week 15 preview. So, fellas, this afternoon at 2:30 at McLean Stadium up the road in Waco, it's going to be Westlake versus Katy Taylor. That game is going to be televised, so if you can't make it up to Waco, you can check it out on KBVO at 2:30.
Can you stream that?
I don't think you can. No. They used to be able to, but I don't know if they're putting down all the money for streaming that. But it is going to be on.
Yeah,
TV.
I didn't know if KBVO was one of those like streamable channels. You know what I'm saying?
It used to be when they first started doing that stuff a few years ago. Because I remember I used to stream the KBVO games. Because you cut the cord. Everybody's cutting cords these days. Yep. But yeah, if anything, get you some rabbit ears. I got some rabbit ears. Old school style.
Digital antennas.
Digital antenna, and
works?
Get your KBVO. Yeah, dude.
And does that get you like the CBS and stuff?
Yeah, get you everything, bro.
Them locals.
Yeah, I'll show you, man.
No, for real.
I'll show you how to hook it up, Mexican style.
Pro tip.
So Katy Taylor was a 4th place team in their district, and Westlake is in their 3rd consecutive state semifinal. We all, I think, on Wednesday decided, or not decided, but picked Westlake to win this game. Are we even more confident in the Westlake Chaparrals now that it's game day? Or
I think we're at a point in the playoffs where like no matter who you're playing, it's nothing to sneeze at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's nobody, ain't no slouches make it to the semifinals. But it is a very winnable game for Westlake. I think they have a favorable matchup in terms of like who could have come out of that portion of the bracket. So I think in situations like that, it's less of like looking past your opponent and more of like being optimistic, which I think helps. Because I think that there's certain teams that in the high school football playoff that like when you see that you draw them in the bracket, it like puts you down because you like like overthink yourself. Be like, dang, we're playing Allen. Like even when Allen is down, like this year, we're like, dang, we're playing Allen. Like that's Allen. Like they have that big stadium. Like they always put dudes D1. Like dang, we're playing Katy. Like dang, we're playing DeSoto. Like stuff like that. So to see this Katy Taylor team that has kind of snuck past some people and upset some people, I think it's a very favorable matchup for Westlake.
There's going to be no surprises for Westlake going into this game. I said on Wednesday I thought this was going to be a very big win for Westlake. I don't see them having any trouble with Katy Taylor. You're not going to pull any punches. You're not going to pull any surprises on Todd Dodge or Tony Salazar with his company. So I look for a big game. I think Mason Mangum, again, I will just reiterate, I think he has a big game since he was quiet last week. And
Cal commit.
Yeah, Cal. That was a big he committed this past week, so shout out to Mason Mangum and his family for that commitment going out west. But, man, I don't see any kind of pickups or challenges for Westlake going into this game. I think they wrap it up early.
Yeah, and I think if you're Taylor, they've been taking care of business, and they've beaten some really good teams. And I don't think that they've been intimidated by any of the names on the front of those jerseys, okay? And I don't know if that's going to maybe change with a team like Westlake. It could. You never know. But with the way these kids are playing right now, they're a fourth-place team, similar to the way Manor was in the 5A. Made it all the way to the quarterfinals, ran into a difficult Shadow Creek team. But you guys are right. There is that name recognition that you have to play against as well. If you're a Katy Taylor, you have to play against not only those players, but there is a little intimidation factor when it says Westlake on the front of those jerseys.
Well, you know what you're getting. You know your opponent, and I think that's where Katy Taylor is new to the game, and I think the first thing that Coach Dodge and Coach Salazar is going to have his bunches doing is they're going to go challenge them mentally. I think they're going to challenge how mentally strong and mentally tough Katy Taylor is, and if they falter or waver in any single way, they will pounce even harder on the Katy Taylor just to take them out of their game. Because once you take a game out of their element and they start playing outside of themselves, that's when things go downhill very quickly. And I know you've seen it in the playoffs. I've seen it firsthand in the playoffs with teams when they play outside of themselves and they lose. And so that's the biggest thing I'll say for Katy Taylor is stay composed. Don't play outside of yourself, but you will be challenged mentally as well as physically by Westlake.
Especially physically, I think, because one of the messages that Westlake's been trying to, I guess, get out there to every single team across the state in 6A is we want to be and we're going to be the hardest hitting team on the field, no matter who we play. And so, we've seen that message from Westlake defenders on some Fanstand ATX mixtapes. Shout out Snoop Daniel.
Yeah.
And they've talked about we want to be the hardest hitting team on the field. And so if they go out there and they have that intimidation factor, I think that's when that name in the front of the jersey comes into play at that point.
We're lucky enough to get to see that all through the year in 25-6A, and I think that's the biggest difference between the Lake schools is you have Lake Travis as a finesse team, and I think you have Westlake as a power team.
And I think if they're looking for a physical matchup, I think that's why I've argued that this matchup plays very well for Westlake, because that's the type of team that Katy Taylor is. They have a couple of big running back that's 6 foot, 190 plus. And then their 2021 class that they have over there is a couple of 4-star offensive linemen, a guard and a tackle. It wouldn't surprise me if these dudes end up being 5 stars next year. Bryce Foster and Hayden Connor. Hayden Connor's already committed to Texas. And just to give you an idea of the size of these boys, they're both 6'5". Hayden Connor 6'5" and a half, 318 and 317 for Hayden Connor.
Wow. And those are some big boys.
That's D1 linemen, man. So, I mean, they'll make it tough to say the least.
Yeah. And
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Finish up.
No, I was going to say, I think the athleticism and the size. I mean, Westlake's, they're no slouches either. They got D1 commits on their side of the ball, the defense also. So don't let that get twisted. But I think that mental strength is what's going to be the key and is going to be challenged off the jump because Westlake will start talking to you and they will test you to see if you're strong or if you're weak and if you play outside of yourself. And then that's when that discipline comes into play.
Yeah, and once again, that game, Westlake versus Katy Taylor, going to be at 2:30 this afternoon up at McLean Stadium in Waco. And it's going to be on KBVO as well if you can't make it up to Waco. All right, the other state semifinal we want to talk about, Lake Travis versus Galena Park North Shore. That's going to be televised as well on KNVA. 4 o'clock kickoff over at Kelly Reeves Athletic Complex. I've heard it's a sold-out show.
So y'all not going?
I don't know. I'm going to try to sneak in with I might be able to sneak in with FanStan ATX.
Yeah.
With Snoop, see what's up.
Good idea.
And this is going to be a fun game to watch. Hopefully it doesn't end like last year's game, which was a 51-10 North Shore victory over Lake Travis. The Mustangs are averaging 62.5 points per game in the postseason, and they dropped 76 last week on Atascocita. So there is a big challenge for this Lake Travis defense. I think an even bigger challenge for the Lake Travis offense to keep up with the scoring, because I think if Lake Travis wins this game, they're going to have to score a lot of points. It seems like nobody has been able to solve the riddle of the North Shore offense. So if you're going to win this game, if you're Lake Travis, you're going to have to go out there and score a lot of points, and a lot of that is going to be based on the quarterback play of Hudson Card.
Hudson Card is going to have to be the playmaker for Lake Travis. And, we kind of talked a little bit of who should get the start, and I think they're going with the right decision with Card at this time. He's got the intangibles, he's got the leadership, and I know that he'll be able to pull all of his team to follow in his footstep so that they can try to attempt to get this W. But I just think there's way too much speed. Galena Park North Shore is just as disciplined, and they're not going to fall into any kind of games that Lake Travis might play. But if Lake Travis were to pull the W, it's going to have to be in every phase of the game, and they're going to have to be probably +4 in the turnover department. But dang, I just don't think that happens. There's just too much speed. There's too much athleticism. My heart wants to pull for Lake Travis, and it's cheering for Lake Travis, but my head says a different thing, and I just want everybody to understand that I love what the Cavs have done. I remember playing them in high school when they weren't a perennial team that they are now, and shout out to that community for supporting them and having them grow as well as they've done. But let's see how the game is played, because we don't know what's going to happen until the clock hits 0.
Do you expect it to be similar to last year's result of a 51-10, Zach?
I think North Shore has only gotten better, and I think Lake Travis had a healthy Hudson Card last year. It wouldn't surprise me if it was like that, but like I said in the last matchup we were talking about, there ain't no slouches when you're like this deep in the playoffs. So what we were saying about Katy Taylor applies to Lake Travis for North Shore. And we were talking about that previous matchup, and it's a little bit tougher for Katy Taylor because they haven't really made it. They haven't really been there before. Whereas this game, both teams have been there before. Lake Travis perennially, North Shore had some success a few years ago, and now they're back kind of into the limelight there. But just to kind of go over the type of athletes that they have over at North Shore, they currently have the number 1 player in the state, Zachary Evans, running back, 5-star. Going along with offensive tackle Damian George, committed to Alabama. That dude's 6'6.5", 348. So that's some size up front. They got another running back committed to Utah, a linebacker committed to Miami, corner committed to K-State. Then that's only the 2020 guys. 2021, they got an athlete that'll end up being a 5-star with Shadrick Banks, committed to A&M. And their quarterback, who really kind of burst onto the scene in that championship game last year, Demetrius Davis, just committed to Virginia Tech. He's a 4-star guy, dual threat. So it's D1 guys all over the place.
Yeah, this is one of those teams where there might be D1 guys sitting on the bench.
There probably are.
And they're just waiting their turn over there. Probably played JV. So
yeah, D1 guys on JV.
Yeah, there's. North Shore is just stacked with talent. It's going to be a big challenge for the Lake Travis Cavaliers. I don't think that they'll be intimidated because they're Lake Travis. No. But it is, I think the players that played in this game last year, it's going to be in the back of their mind. And if things start going south, for the Cavs, it might go south pretty quickly. So if you're Coach Carter, you win that toss, I think you want the ball.
For sure. You want to make sure you go out and set the precedent. I don't see this being the same score as last year. I don't think that North Shore is going to score 50 points, and I don't think that Lake Travis is going to score 10 points. I think it's going to be probably 40-something to 20-something. It's going to be in that range. You've given Coach Carter a long time to prepare, and he probably knew this is where it's going to be a big test for the whole year. He had his biggest challenge previously would have been Westlake, and that was earlier in the year. So shout out to Lake Travis. Best of luck. But you got a long road to hoe with this game today.
All right. So once again, got a couple of semifinals with Austin area teams. Westlake versus Katy Taylor, 2:30 at McLean Stadium. It's going to be on KBVO if you can't make it up there. And Lake Travis versus Galena Park North Shore on KNVA, 4 o'clock kickoff there. So that game is sold out. So, if you got a ticket, maybe you can go scalp them. I mean, and I was actually at Kelly Reeves Athletic Complex last night. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Grandview and Columbus. I went to that semifinal game. Grandview was up 41-7 when we left in the fourth quarter, but they're going to be Grandview's moving on to the state championship to play Pottsboro. And I tell you what, man, 3A football games, those are fun.
Right?
They're fun, man. I mean, the fans are really into it. There's a lot of cowbells, a lot of noisemakers. It was a different atmosphere.
It's rural America.
Yeah, it was just like, because I've been to a lot of games at Kelly Reeves Athletic Complex, mostly 5A, 6A teams, more, Austin area urban teams. When you have Columbus and Grandview, it is a little bit different, and then the bands at halftime were like, maybe like 15 or 20 people,
a fifth of these big
schools.
You're
used to seeing
they
like
cover up the logo.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a good time. Shout out to Scott Drillette. Went with him last night, and he's over at Dripping Springs now. And we talked a little bit about the Dripping Springs Manor game as well. So it was good catching up with Scott. But shout out to the Grandview Zebras. They're going to be heading out to the state championship next week. All right, Heisman Trophy talk, fellas. Here on ReconAthlete.com's podcast episode number 34. Do we expect anything less than a Joe Burrow, or anything less than Joe Burrow winning the Heisman tonight?
I mean, I think now you're just talking about how unanimous it is. Is it more unanimous than Troy Smith a few years ago? How does it break any records in terms of that? But I think it's always kind of weird where you're like this year, like what is going to make someone not vote for Joe Burrow?
Somebody who voted early, really early in the
because you always see the little breakdown after they do it, and it's like Joe Burrow 50,000 million votes, and then like
Justin Fields
Chuba Hubbard won. It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
did you not get the text that everybody was voting for Joe Burrow today?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody probably voted early for Justin Fields just of how well Ohio State was doing, but I think this year is when you had Joe Burrow making 2 Heisman moments, and the last one was in the SEC championship when there was 2 guys who had penetrated the pocket, and he was able to evade the pocket and throw a huge pass downfield for a huge gain. Didn't get in the end zone, but it was a large chunk play, and it was that time where everybody was saying, could you have 2 Heisman moments in a year? And he exactly did. So I agree with Zach. It's going to be measured on how unanimous it is, and you're going to have a couple of voters who just voted early. They decided to do that for whatever reason.
And do y'all think they got the finalists right? So Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and then the 2 guys from Ohio State, Chase Young and Justin Fields. Do you think anybody shouldn't be there or anybody else should be there?
I mean, Jonathan Taylor,
J.K. Dobbins.
I think those two are pretty. They deserve to be there.
I agree.
I don't know. I guess maybe the way Justin Fields ended the season, he kind of struggled there in the last couple games. So I don't know that he did enough.
But I mean,
didn't do enough to be on the Heisman finalist. Maybe
you could talk Heisman moment though with him whenever he went out with that apparent knee injury and then came back in and threw a touchdown. That kind of has Heisman moment written all over it. I'm honestly with kind of how once Chase Young's stock starts to decline and J.K. Dobbins' stock rose, I'm kind of surprised that it's Chase Young and not J.K. Dobbins, just how they both ended the season. But I think the narrative around Chase Young is just too enticing to pass up in terms of a finalist. But I'm honestly surprised that they didn't bring Trevor Lawrence just because I mean he's going to be a staple of that conversation next year.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead just to piggyback on that Chase Young. I mean, he's number 1 in sacks on the year, 16.5, and he's number 4 in solo tackles at 21. So those kind of numbers really jump out and kind of make you put that up there just because sacks are so hard to come by. But I will agree with you on this. I think Chase Young, and I think this is real indicative of a lot of young players, is they want to play when they want to. When they start getting double and triple teamed, they're like, well, why am I going to try so hard? I know I'm just going to get this amount of attention. And so they probably tone down the motor. Other guys like the Bosa brothers, they're always going 100 miles an hour, so they always impact. And so that kind of gives them a little bit more limelight. But I do agree that sometimes Chase Young does disappear, and that's going to be something then the draft people are going to certainly identify. But Trevor Lawrence, if the dude balls out in the semifinals against Ohio State, a lot of people are going to be saying, why wasn't he there? Especially, and that's why I really believe that these awards shouldn't be handed out until after the national championship, because we really don't know what's going to happen. Because if Ohio State comes out and they come out real flat and Clemson just blows them out, which I don't think will happen, but if it did, that's going to give a lot of people question to say, hey, where was Trevor Lawrence in this Heisman race when he was just balling out all year, but not really facing a whole lot of good competition?
I mean, I think a couple things. I don't think it could be after the national championship. I don't even think we could wait till the bowl games, because I mean that eliminates the chances for people like Lamar Jackson's or the Johnny Manziel's on his big seasons when this team's not good enough to. I mean, even that dude. You remember that dude a few years ago from NIU? That went is a quarterback from NIU that went to the Heisman final. He was a Heisman finalist. But I mean, it just eliminates teams like that or players like that from. I mean, it basically gets the spotlight taken away from them because their team's not good enough, which I don't think is fair. I think now that the Heisman Trophy is becoming more of like your team has to be good too trophy, which I think is kind of getting away from what it was meant to be. But you were talking about Chase Young kind of taking plays off and playing when he wants to. And that's something that Joe Burrow hasn't done all year.
I don't know.
You've seen him take big hits and then get right back up and go throw a touchdown. You've seen him take hits, you've seen him break tackles. You've seen Justin Fields kind of get up slow a few times and kind of I don't want to say milk injuries, but he does seem to be the guy that's kind of always grabbing at something or always trying to limp some way. And then you've seen Jalen Hurts turn the ball over time and time again. Talk about how the Big 12 isn't anything compared to SEC. Like he's played in SEC games and yet he's getting popped and fumbling the ball all over the place. So that's just something you haven't seen from Joe Burrow all year. And then I think that's why he's going to be a unanimous Heisman winner.
Yeah, definitely going to be. I think definitely unanimous. Also, going back to Chase Young, it's almost like they kind of gave this nominee, this candidate as a novelty. Because people always talk about, well, how come there's not a defensive player, up for the Heisman? And so I think at this point in the season, when they did announced the finalists, they were kind of like, okay, well, I mean, Joe Burrow's obviously going to win, so let's throw in a defensive player and just kind of mix things up a little bit. Maybe start a little conversation about the Heisman Trophy, because everybody knows I guess everybody is assuming who's going to win. We all kind of know who's going to win already, so it's almost boring at that point. So let's throw in a defensive player so we have something to talk about. Does that make sense?
Right, and I think the Heisman is also starting to turn into a quarterback award, and I think that's something that the Heisman committee is trying to get away from as well. And that's why they invite the Chase Young. That's why they bring up Chuba Hubbard's name when they talk about it on TV, because they don't want you to know who's going to win. And so if for some reason there's a year where there's like two defensive players, a receiver, and a quarterback, then you're going to know, like, oh, it's a Heisman Trophy. The quarterback's going to get it. So they're trying to avoid that. So, I mean, I think it is kind of like a novelty thing, because, I mean, there's always going to be someone first in sacks. There's always going to be someone that's fourth in the league in tackles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's cool to see him go. It would have been cool to see him win, but I think as soon as he would have won, you would have heard the masses talking about, well, Joe Burrow, blah 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 blah. Chase Young only takes off these and this plays, whereas this guy touches the ball every play. So I mean, I think the committee is going to get it right.
It's really unfortunate that the only defensive player in our lifetime that I remember winning was Charles Woodson, and he had to play offense to get that trophy, and it's unfortunate that it has to happen that way. The guy we know is a great corner and played safety also in the NFL, but he had to play offense just to get that look and just to get that attention. And that's one thing that I thought, something that the Heisman Trophy Committee in New York really needs to take a look at. And it's like, why does it always have to be an offensive player? Yeah, we can throw somebody in there for novelty, but do we really believe, do the fans really believe they're going to win unless they play a little bit of offense? And I think that's unfortunate.
So Chase Young should have returned kicks.
Well, he should have played tight end. or he could have played, maybe like fullback and scored a couple of touchdowns. That would have been a good way to get him involved and maybe more attention. Possibly.
Yeah. You got to get in the end zone, to get that recognition on the offensive side of the ball. And you know what? That's kind of where we're at with the Heisman Trophy. I mean, it's an offensive side of the ball award, and if you're playing defense, you're just trying to get an award and go number one overall. I think that's the ultimate goal, anyways.
And I think kind of like the NFL MVP, where we want to talk about Christian McCaffrey's and guys like that, but at the end of the day, we know it's a quarterback driven award. It's a quarterback driven league.
Yep.
And the league is driven by quarterbacks that came from college. So I mean, these are guys that were stars in college and turned into the NFL stars. So I mean, it's just kind of the path that both of these leagues have taken to this kind of spread you out and put up a bunch of points, and that's because of quarterbacks.
And just real quick, if anybody remembers the AAF that dissolved mid-year, if you want to know the difference between the NFL and the AAF, just look at the quarterbacks. The best quarterback in the AAF was Garrett Gilbert, shout out Lake Travis, who was now the backup in Cleveland. That just tells you the difference in the level of quarterback play in the whole world. There's only a very small amount of guys, and that's who can play the position, and that's why they're paid so well and protected so well in the NFL and especially college football.
Speaking on Garrett Gilbert, that was, I mean, I've seen this is kind of a change in topic too, but I've gone to state championship games the last 5 years, so I've seen Kyler Murray, I've seen some really big time football Texas high school football players. The best Texas high school football player I've ever seen in person in my life was Garrett Gilbert. Just the size that he had, the mobility, the arm strength. He played at Hendrickson, and I remember just watching him just run straight to the sideline and just flick the ball 50, 60 yards downfield as a high schooler, and it was just something I'd never seen before. And even the things that Kyler Murray could do, it almost kind of wore off some of the allure to it because he did it so often. Mm-hmm. Just being able to see Garrett Gilbert though, and I the argument that Texas fans have and against him and what he could have been and what he wasn't and stuff. I honestly believe that he was the best Texas high school football player I've ever seen in my life. So I wanted to ask you guys in terms of, I know Paul doesn't like when I go off topic or whatever, but in terms of Texas high school football players that you've seen in person. And I know Paul's gonna be like, oh, the guy from.
Actually, this is in your neighborhood, Zach. The best. This was my first year with fan. This is with Fanstand ATX. This is back in the day. It's like year one
when we were Friday night.
When we were Friday night Fanstand, right? At Hendrickson High School, Samaje Perine as a sophomore could flat out just run, and I think it was Dejae Johnson.
Yeah.
He was a senior that year. And you could just tell he was just as fast, but his lower body was like a defensive lineman. His lower body was just a lot thicker. And I was like, he's just as fast and a lot more durable. And I was like, this guy's going to be special. But that for me was in person the best high school football player I ever saw as a sophomore. And I thought that was just tremendous to watch.
You need to get out of the area.
But here's the thing. To see it on the sideline that close and to watch him go into the NFL and play in college at Oklahoma, I thought was just really awesome to see.
For me, can I go back? How far can I go back? Can it be somebody I played against?
Are they still alive?
Man, how do you think Chris is?
I don't know.
It was Drew Brees.
Really?
I mean, he killed us, man. I mean, he played at Westlake. I played at Westwood, and we got to you watch that guy play, and man, it was amazing. It sucked being on the other sideline, but you were just amazed at what he could do because he wasn't a big kid.
Yeah.
He's still not a big guy now, so he wasn't even a big kid.
All
right, he's still not a big kid. But just watching him play back then, you kind of knew that at that point.
Well, let's go.
He was going to be. So I mean, when I get back into this century,
right?
I would have to say, for me, man, that's a good question. Immediately, I think of Baker Mayfield, just because he was a similar type of quarterback to Drew Brees, and I just think the things that he could do on the field as far as leadership goes. Now, if we're talking are you talking straight talent, or are we talking just football player? Because football player, I thought it was Baker.
Well,
I got another one.
Let me just say this. Whenever I asked the question, I didn't think the word leadership was going to come up. So I'm talking about just sheer talent, just sheer like you as a fan, you sat back and just enjoyed watching that player play.
Man, I don't know. I didn't really get to see a whole lot of games when I was in studio with fan stand. You know, that was the only thing I didn't like about doing fan stands because I had to be in studio. But I liked Ben Johnson was really fun to watch. Who else? You had somebody else, right, Paul?
Yeah, I had somebody. I didn't get to see him in person, but I had the fortune to watch film with Coach Derek Long, state championship coach at Westlake, and I had the fortune to go to his home and watch tape on Vince Young, and I got to watch Vince Young in the state semifinal championship against Westlake, and talk about man among boys, just speed wise, and that guy he could roll out, and then before you know it, he's 50 yards down the field because of just his athleticism. And that to me was the biggest contrast in just athletic ability. And we're talking, this is, when I played 18 years ago when it was 5A was like the top level. That was the elite level. And Vince Young to me just jumps off the page.
I mean, second for me has to be Kyler Murray. Like going to the state games, I saw him once a year, like for 3 years, and just the amount of like sureness that he played with, and the amount of like lightning in a bottle that he would just let out whenever he wanted to. I mean, he would throw. They would be in the end zone. He would have like a big long run and a big long pass that would set up like an end goal situation, and they would just go so fast. And he would get the shotgun handoff, hand it to the running back, and just start walking to the sideline because he knew their team was so good. He knew that guy was going to score. Or he would throw big bombs and just let go of the ball and sprint downfield because he knew the guy was going to catch it and they were either going to score or run another play. Yeah. So I mean, just that type of, I mean, almost like it was cockiness. Like that dude was a cocky player, but like it was so fun to watch because there was nothing you could say about it because he was that good. It's not like you could say like, watch the guy run into the end zone before you run to the sideline. Like, why? Because we're just going to do it again next series. Like, let me just go sit down. Like, there was a clip that I had posted, like, on Twitter, like, forever ago of Kyler Murray and another one of the starters in the state championship game leaning back on the bench, just throwing the ball up and down. It was like they were just bored. They were at the state championship game, and they were winning about 30, and they were just, let me know when it's our turn again, and I'll go score.
Yeah, I think this name just kind of popped in my head right now, and it's kind of maybe out of nowhere, but I don't know if y'all remember Datron Guyton, wide receiver out of Manor, a few years ago. He was a kid that it was amazing. I mean, I did get to see a few of those games, and there was nobody on the field that I saw them play ever that could come close to covering him. Didn't work out for him at the college level, but at the high school level, he was probably one of the, he had the size, he had the speed, he had the quickness to get out of routes. I mean, he could jump through the roof. I mean, he had it all, probably still does. But I think he's one of those guys that maybe off the radar that, didn't quite make the splash that he probably should have or could have at the college level. So Datron Guyton.
No, and I think it's a bummer that we don't have Snoopy here to talk about this, but being able to see Dejae Johnson live, like at his prime, talking about dudes that could do whatever they wanted. I mean, you see guys, you go to a high school game and you see like the running back at that high school stop on a dime and then try to reverse field and lose 10 yards. And you're like, dude, this isn't middle school ball anymore. This isn't Pop Warner ball. Like, there's dudes on the other team that are just as fast as you, or you don't have the right moves to do it. That dude would just return like reverse fields and beat everybody. Yeah. He was that fast. I remember when he was in high school, when we were in high school, that was like when they were really just starting that Nike Spark testing stuff, and he posted like the highest ever Spark score. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, that dude was just a freak athlete. Like, you saw him walking around. He was in his cut off jean shorts and tight like emo band T-shirt, but just his calves were just massive. His arms were huge. We sat at the same lunch table my junior year, and Coach Killian would just walk in every once a week with a big manila folder, and he would just DJ would just dump it onto the table with handwritten letters from Nick Saban, handwritten letters from Mac Brown, and all these stuff, and he would just sort through them like, nope, don't want to go there, don't want to go there. Like, bring the trash can over here, and he's dumping Mississippi State, he's dumping Texas Tech, like he's dumping USC, like, and that dude was just crazy, man. And I think had he not kind of gotten in wrong terms with Charlie Strong and some of those staff members over there, I think he would have turned into a really, really good player in college.
Paul?
No, man, I'm good. Those two big ones for me to remember. That was a good segment. Zach.
Yeah, Zach, thanks for bringing that up. All right, ReconAthlete.com podcast episode number 34. We got week 15, right? Yeah, 15 NFL playoffs coming up pretty soon. So let's go down this schedule here. Paul, where are we starting at?
We're going to start with Patriots at Bengals, New England, 10.5-point favorite.
So the Patriots signed and released a trick shot kicker this week. I don't know if y'all heard about that.
Like from YouTube?
Yeah, Josh Gable was his name. They brought him in for a couple of practices. Apparently he could kick a 80-yard field goal. I think that was on YouTube.
In what city?
Just go on there and see if you can.
The Windy City, probably.
We're talking about Estadio Azteca in Mexico.
Yeah, right. But they did bring. I mean, I saw the headline for a second, and not many people were talking about it because Stephen Gostkowski had a season-ending surgery. Nick Folk is their current kicker.
Right.
The Patriots have been trying to find a kicker, just like everybody else in the NFL. And so Bill Belichick just being Bill Belichick, I don't even know how he knew this guy or saw this guy or, maybe, had a grandson or somebody like, hey, grandpa, look at this, this guy on YouTube, look at this guy. And then he just brings him in for a couple of practices, signs and releases him. And the way Bill Belichick is, this could be something that will help him. I mean, he's looking at next year. He's looking at the year after. I mean, he's always like, I don't know, 100 steps ahead of everybody else and ahead of the NFL. So, I don't know what was up with that, but he brought him in for a couple of practices.
So I was going to ask, do you know what date that was? Because if they pulled him off
it was Friday.
So it was Friday. Okay.
The Friday. Well,
last week or yesterday?
This last, I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday they signed him. They brought him in for a couple of practices and then they released him yesterday.
And the only reason I bring that up is because that Jets field goal kicker missed an extra point. And so I was wondering if maybe Belichick, divisional opponent, pulled in this guy to say, hey, maybe let's get him off the street so somebody else in his division doesn't pick him up. Just being a real cynical.
That's something that Bill Belichick
I think the opposite. I think he signed him knowing that he's Bill Belichick and everyone thinks he's a fantastic mind. He signed him, was like, all right, don't even come. I'm really just signing you, and I'm going to release you on Friday, but you're going to get signed by another team because everyone's going to think you're really good because I signed you, so you're welcome. Well, he told the coach, he was like, yeah, I can kick 80 yards, but the holder has to spin it on top of his head for me to kick it. He's like, I have to kick it 3 times in like a soccer juggle and then kick it through the end zone. Is that okay?
Yeah, I have to
stay home.
I have to bounce it off of the first down marker.
I can only kick it into trash cans. Can you put a trash can behind the goalpost?
And that was something that, I mean, he did come in. He did spend a couple of practices.
How much money does that guy walk away with?
I have no idea. That's a good question. I should have looked that up. But the only thing I saw like on the write up was that he came in for a couple of practices. It didn't really say like how well he did. It didn't say like, oh well, he was hitting them from 50 yards or 60 yards or anything. All it just said was, he's a trick shot kicker in quotes. And Belichick brought him in for a couple of practices, and then he's gone. It's almost like Belichick is like bored right now. He's like, I'm playing the Bengals this week. He's like, what can I do to just like, what would be fun to do something at practice? Let me bring this trick shot kicker in, and maybe he can entertain the guys while we're trying to get ready for this terrible Cincinnati Bengals team.
I don't know that whatever it is, Bill Belichick gained something from that kicker. I don't know what it was, but it's something. Next,
probably got mono. So they're gonna send him to someone else.
Yeah, he's sent him with something, and he's gonna go to another team. Buccaneers at Lions, Tampa Bay 5-point favorite.
So the Lions lose Marvin Jones Jr. to season-ending surgery. Danny Amendola could be a sneaky DFS player for anybody out there playing daily fantasy. And The Bucks have the league leading run defense, so it's going to be David Blau that's going to have to, probably make this win this game if the Lions are going to have a chance to win this football game. Bucks are, would you say 5-point favorites?
5-point favorite, yes.
I kind of like that line for the Bucks, but I mean, you lose a receiver. You're going against the number one rush defense. Bo Scarborough's banged up right now.
Yep.
So the Lions, I mean, they're struggling. So I kind of like the Bucks at that 5 points.
So I have a fantasy question for y'all. Are y'all both in the playoffs of your fantasy leagues?
I'm in semifinals right now.
No, I'm not. No. I started out real good, and then I like.
So is since Chris didn't make the finals, is your playoffs 2 weeks at a time?
No.
The two leagues that I'm in, I've never seen this before, but like I'm in the semifinals last week and this week.
Yeah, you need to talk to your commissioner.
What is that?
Somebody set that up wrong.
Have you ever seen that before?
No.
And then in my group message with the dudes that I'm in it with, they were like, duh, like, have y'all not, like, all my leagues are like this. I'm like, what leagues are y'all playing?
Our Super Bowl always ends week 16.
It's always like 1 week and the next week, and then that's it.
Yep. So the one league that I've been in for the longest, since about 2002, and that's the Dirty Dozen.
I must be playing DAZN fantasy sports or something like that.
Shout out to the Dozen. That was when I first started. I mean, my very first fantasy football team, I had like Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce on that team. So that's how far back I go. But that they back then, and we stopped it probably about 10 years ago. But that league back then, only the championship game was 2 weeks. It was week 16 and 17. And so that's week 17. You only had, obviously you only had two teams that were still, playing for anything.
Right.
Well, actually four, because you had the third place game, but there was four teams, and you pick up the most randomest dudes in week 17.
Most random.
Yeah, most random guy in week 17, because they might, go out there and run for 100 yards and score 2 touchdowns
now
off the practice squad.
Now in our league, the Super Bowl is week 16, but we count points through week 17, and that's because we pay out a top point score for the whole year. So like the points count through week 17, but the Super Bowl all ends week 16.
Well, then so if the championship, because I'm going to make the championship in that league that we did together.
I know you are.
I'm going to make the championship in one of my leagues that I drafted by myself.
You lying.
So if that's 2 weeks, half my players ain't even going to be playing.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Thing.
And that was the reason.
Yeah, what kind of drafting is that, Paul?
Have you checked your bench? Yeah, exactly.
They're all injured on my bench, bro.
Well, you should have been making some moves.
And that was the reason why. That was the reason why in that league, in the Dirty Dozen, that's why we got rid of that week 17, because like nobody's playing at that point. I mean, even if you're a team that's not going to make the playoffs or whatever, those guys stopped playing in week 16.
Yeah.
So
what week are we in?
That's why we did it.
15.
Week 15. So. If you're a fantasy commissioner out there, get rid of week 17, please.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. All right. Chicago at Packers. Green Bay 4.5-point favorite.
So the Bears are on a 3-game win streak, and they've won their 4 of the last 5, including beating the Cowboys. Green Bay won this matchup in week 1, 10-3. We expect a similar type of game or a little bit more points.
It's not going to be like that.
Nah.
But I mean, I can't look at the line in this game, because I mean this is a game that's always played close. No matter who's the quarterback, no matter whose defense is good or bad, this game is always played close. So I'm hoping the Packers can pull it out. But this is a perfect, kind of like the perfect storm type of game for the Packers to kind of fall off the rails on.
15 degrees at kickoff. This thing is going to be cold.
Is it in Green Bay?
It's in Green Bay. This game's going to be cold.
It's 15 degrees. That means Aaron Rodgers is going to throw 6 touchdowns.
He may have a huge game. Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, gosh, I'm shout out to the Packer fans. I will not be there.
Speaking of you're not going to be there?
No, I wouldn't even be there if I had tickets.
I could have told you that. But
Captain Obvious.
Speaking of the Packers, the Packers is a name that I've seen floating around a lot for Odell Beckham.
Really?
As a potential landing spot for Odell Beckham. So, I mean, and I'm trying to figure out how that would work. I mean, Devontae Adams is trying to get him.
Where'd you see this?
Devontae Adams is like hitting him up on Twitter and stuff.
Oh, they recruiting is what you're saying. Okay.
And there's been and that's sparked a bunch of news articles, obviously. But I don't know how that would work. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers would love it. I think Devontae Adams would love it.
Sure.
But you've never really had a guy like that. I mean, as long as I can remember, you've never really had a guy like that in the green and gold, really. That's never really been kind of their MO. Like the big name receivers of my generation that I can remember is guys like Donald Driver, guys like Greg Jennings. And that was never
Greg Jennings.
Didn't Andre Rison play for Green Bay at the end of his career with Brett Favre? That's an OBJ kind of player.
Maybe.
That's an OBJ kind of player.
Yeah, but that was at the end of his career.
He was a lot more mature.
I mean, you got like Sterling Sharp and stuff like that, but
yeah, those guys are real. Those guys are not OBJ.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like just the type of like stardom that OBJ brings too. I mean, it's never really been like that type of marquee player or receiver, especially.
Where do you think he would be the most happy? Because he ain't been happy at New York or in Cleveland. Where would you think he would be happy?
I think he'd be happy in Green Bay.
I think he'd be happy in Green Bay too.
If he had somebody like Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football and getting him the ball,
kind of like
and he's winning and he's winning
career. Yeah,
I think that would really shut him up if he's winning.
Because we didn't hear nothing when the Browns were like winning, and when Jarvis Landry was getting all the balls, we didn't hear nothing like this.
Yeah.
But now that they're losing and he's not getting the balls, I mean now we're starting to hear. I mean the quarterback's throwing him under the bus with injuries, like that's where now we're kind of starting to hear this stuff. But I think socially he would fit really well in San Francisco. And I think he would win over there too. But in terms of like long-term success, I think the Packers would be a great landing spot.
Well, I don't know if y'all saw the messenger. I know a lot of stuff gets buried in there.
Buried. Sorry.
Yeah, we know you ignore it. We know you don't contribute in there. But OBJ was talking to Garoppolo after that game, and you could see the words mouthed like, "I got room for you on the roster." And Jimmy Garoppolo, we were talking about Jimmy Grapes, and then I was like, well, maybe he's Jimmy the Great after that W over Drew Brees and company against the Saints last week. Could that be a potential spot for him in San Francisco? I mean, he'd have a huge market, not a huge market, but a bigger market than Cleveland. Garoppolo is up and coming. We know Belichick wanted to replace Tom Brady with Garoppolo. Could that be a next landing spot if that running game for the 49ers holds up?
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, I think that he would. I think he'd be a good fit over there. They don't have anybody.
Debo Samuels is their receiver one right now, and he's not as good as OBJ.
No, I mean he's a monster.
He's starting on my fantasy team.
Yeah,
I know
he's a monster, but he's not an Odell type of number one wide receiver.
I just don't know how sustainable this 49ers success is going to be because
really,
I think long term. You're going to end up having to pay Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's going to definitely hurt the rest of your team in terms of cap space, in terms of contracts and stuff like that. So to be able to pay Jimmy G, the quarterback kind of premium right now, and pay across that defensive line, that's going to get expensive. So I think you're kind of tying yourself to a Jimmy G that's almost in this reverse Dak Prescott type of thing where he is basically competing for a ton of money, only not playing particularly well, like in terms of like statistics, but winning. So, and we've seen throughout the NFL that's what you pay for is winning.
Well, why can't the 49ers go out and sign him next year and go win a Super Bowl? They're probably going to compete for one. Why not sign him to a 1 or 2 year contract and pay for play, get him in,
but I mean,
in the championship, and then let him be on his way.
But my argument is long term success, and I don't think 1 or 2 years is long term success, and I think because I think we've seen what the amount of misses in quarterbacks is if you're betting on 1 or 2 years with this guy and then finding somebody else, that finding somebody else could be just as hard as the betting on the 1 or 2 years with this guy.
I think right now a lot of NFL teams are trying to take on the formula of the New England Patriots because they're the ones that have been, the premier team, the championship winning team for a long time. And they're trying to get a really good coach, which the 49ers have one, and to get a really good quarterback. Now, I'm not going to say that Jimmy Garoppolo is Tom Brady by no means, but I think maybe a lot of teams are trying to go that route and saying, let me get a head coach and a quarterback, and I got my leaders. I got my leader off the field on the sidelines, and I got my leader on the field with my quarterback. So let's try to do that same type of formula. So I do see them, paying Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, are they going to have long-term success, Zach? I don't know. I can't really see that because you're right. I mean, they're eventually going to have to pay their defense. Defense wins championships. We see that. But also, so do quarterbacks. So, I'll be interested to see what San Francisco does in the offseason. I don't expect them to be Super Bowl winners this year. They're almost there. They're just not quite there. But
that game's not even going to be on TV. That Packer game that we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
Packers Bears is not on Fox because Eagles Redskins is.
Well, I mean, I'm going to watch it on NFL Red Zone whenever they go score, and I'm going to watch it maybe on DirecTV. If I go to the Pop's house,
okay.
Papa Romeo, if I go to his house, I'll watch it on DirecTV.
But I feel like that's just I guess regionally there's more Eagles fans, I guess, here.
I guess it's more of because of the NFC East
right
thing, like the Cowboys.
It's a divisional game.
But who would rather
Divisional
watch
game.
that?
Not me.
Nobody.
So, what was the Green Bay Chicago line? We got all the way talking about San
right?
Francisco.
Yeah, we went to all the way to San Francisco. -4.5 Green Bay.
Who does San Francisco want?
We'll get there.
Go ahead.
Broncos at Chiefs. KC 9.5-point favorite.
Broncos. Did you skip one?
No, we went Bears, Packers, Broncos, Chiefs.
Okay, Broncos have an 8-game losing streak to the Chiefs. Is that going to be
feel
9?
like the Broncos have an 8-game losing streak to most teams.
Just about everybody, right?
Not to Houston.
Drew Lock, though, right? It's Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, yep.
Drew Lock against Pat Mahomes. Could be a good one.
Man, I got to go Pat Mahomes on that one.
Agreed. Dolphins at Giants. Giants, wow, 3-point favorite at home. Coin toss.
So
Is it still Eli Manning?
Yeah.
So if the Giants win this game, that basically takes them out of the running for the top pick because they'll be 2 games up on Cincinnati, and who we've talked about.
Yes.
They're playing New England this week, and if they beat the Dolphins, they'll be tied with them, but they'll lose. They'll lose because of the tiebreaker. Yeah. So you lose out of the number 1 pick because you beat the Dolphins.
Let's go, Eli.
Who? I mean. Is this Tank City? Is this, It
depends who you're tanking for. If you're tanking for Tua, then it's a winnable game.
Well, I mean, they're not really tanking for Tua.
The Giants aren't tanking for Tua.
Yeah, they got Daniel Jones.
You're
tanking for Chase Young.
Chase Young.
So
I'm trying to think of a alliteration.
Who's gonna? Me too. I mean, who is gonna accidentally win this football game? I think the Giants will accidentally win.
I think the Dolphins.
I like Fitzmagic in this one.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's just when you like Fitzmagic that he does.
That's when he lets you down.
magic.
Yeah, so that's why I'm gonna go opposite pick. I'm gonna go opposite pick and go with the Giants.
All right. So next up, Eagles at Redskins. That game Zach was talking about. Philly 6-point favorite on the road.
I mean,
I don't want to talk about this game because I'm mad that the Packers
Why?
on TV.
Why?
It's taking the TV time from the Packers.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the Redskins are going to mess around and beat Philly, and Dallas is going to mess around and lose, and we're going to be in the same boat we're in the whole year.
Yeah, all the Cowboys fans are going to be Redskins fans during that game, though. All right, go ahead.
Seahawks at Panthers. Seahawks 6.5-point favorite.
All right, so the Seahawks were on a 5-game winning streak. They saw snapped last week with a 28-12 loss to the Rams. And I think, and a lot of people were talking about this, and I kind of tend to agree, is the Rams put a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. They kind of set a blueprint on how to beat the Seahawks. So, Seattle, they need to come back and win this football game. I think they've got a really good chance to do that. What was the line again?
6.5-point favorite, Seattle.
6.5. I think they cover that.
I think they cover also.
But and then all of a sudden we're talking Russell Wilson MVP, and then all of a sudden it's Lamar Jackson. So
trust.
I just think that Russell. I think he's got a competitive side to him. He wants to go out there and put on a show and say, hey, I know Lamar's doing a great job, but remember when y'all talking about me MVP? I think he's going to try to put his name back in there.
I mean, just think about it. Seattle's 10-3, and they're going to play in a wild card game.
Right.
If they win out and San Francisco wins out. Jaguars at Raiders. Oakland 6.5-point favorite. The last game at
Raiders' last home game.
That's y'all's potential coach, right?
Yeah. Gruden,
coach and quarterback right there.
Yeah, Gruden coming to the Cowboys. You heard it here first on ReconAthlete.com podcast. Now Raiders.
That one dude said it first.
Yeah, it was Emo. Yeah, Raiders' last home game. I wonder what it's going to be like. Are they going to fans are going to do like I think it was it Cleveland or
Cleveland rip out the seats.
They rip out the seats and stuff.
But they have legit like stands. They don't have seats.
Oh, okay.
They have like benches.
So you'd have to have a real like coordinated effort to rip those.
Man, enough drunk Raider fans. They'll get them out.
So I think the Raiders need to win this. It's their last home game. They need to win this football game.
Is Minshew starting? I think he is.
I think he is still starting. Yeah. So I like the Raiders.
Browns at Cardinals. Cleveland 2.5-point favorite.
Baker versus Kyler.
Exactly.
What do we expect?
The Lincoln Riley Bowl.
Yeah.
I think the Browns are just a dumpster fire right now.
Really? Man. They've won 4 of the last 5.
Yeah, I mean, the narrative around them has been so negative.
That's true.
So negative, man. And I think losing to the Cardinals will be kind of even more of a tipping point. I mean, everything's already done tipped over, but I mean, it'll put that upside down if they lose to the Cardinals. And I think that's kind of Kyler Murray's personality is to want to do that to people. So I picked the Cardinals.
Oh wow!
I like Baker. I'm gonna take Baker and the dog pound to pull the W on the road.
Yeah, me too.
All right, we're gonna skip that one. We'll skip the or actually, no, let's not skip. Vikings at Chargers. Wow, Minnesota 1.5-point favorite.
So Adam Thielen is returning to the Vikings after a couple months off, and I think it's only 1.
Look at you in your show notes.
1.5.
Oh, yeah, man. Look at this.
1.5.
So here's the thing about the Chargers. All 8 of their losses has been by a touchdown or less.
It's like that every year.
So, yeah, I guess you're right. But still, I mean, there's a potential where this team could be.
They're the Dallas Cowboys of the West Coast.
I mean, this team could be 13-2. This team could be 12-3. I mean, there's just what ifs and what could have beens for the Chargers. Now, I think that's the reason behind this line. Although I don't get it, I guess. I mean, I still take the Vikings. I mean, 1.5 points. That's all you're getting. I mean,
I'll take the Vikings.
I mean, I'll take the Vikings to cover that because it's pretty much a toss up. Zach,
Phillip Rivers, Hall of Famer.
Yes. It's like Dan Marino.
Think so?
Yeah.
He'll get in on the stats alone.
I mean, he's been so competitive. He's a fiery guy. There's a lot of respect with people who come through the Chargers. I mean, he put the Chargers on the map. And I know Drew Brees was there before, but I mean,
Hall of Fame trash talker, that's for sure.
Bro, he'll let you know. He'll talk to you.
Yeah. So
you can pull him off the ground and he'll still talk to you.
I mean, I guess if I were a voter or something like that, I would say he is. I would say he is.
All right. Falcons at 49ers, San Francisco 11-point favorite. We skipped the Cowboys.
So the
Falcons love to randomly win games like this.
They do. And the 49ers have a lot of injuries. See, their defensive tackle was put on IR, DJ Jones. And it looks like Richard Sherman might be out for this game. Defensive end D Ford, cornerback Kawan Williams, and their center Weston Richburg. And so the San Francisco 49ers are kind of limping into this game. They beat the Saints on the road last week, 48-46. I mean, that game probably took a lot out of them. So they're at Atlanta, you said?
No, they're at Santa Clara. They're in San Francisco.
Okay, they're in San Francisco. Okay, so they're at least they have that going for them. But I don't think the Falcons win this game, but I think they cover.
I agree with that. 11 points is a lot, especially with the depleted team that 49ers are showing up with. Zach?
Do y'all think Julio Jones, because of Matt Ryan, is falling down on the tier of, or like in terms of top 1, 2, 3 receivers in the league?
Nobody really talks about him anymore. People talk about DeAndre Hopkins. People are talking about Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams as the top receivers.
And I think talent-wise, I think you could argue that Julio Jones is the most talented specimen and just overall talent talent plus physicality plus body size and just features. Like I think he's the best, but I think Matt Ryan is really slowing him down, which is weird because he used to be the one that was building him up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to Matt Ryan.
Do you think the humility that Julio Jones carries himself is inhibiting him from maybe like demanding a trade to go into a quarterback-led team that's suited to his caliber?
Well, I mean, not even necessarily leaving, but I mean, Stephon Diggs is like 2 quarters what Julio Jones is, and he came out and said like, "I need y'all to throw the ball to me more. I'm gonna leave." Mm-hmm. Not even, and I don't think that was necessarily him trying to leave, but him trying to get the ball and stay. Yeah. But Julio Jones would never. Like, we've seen so many people make a name for themselves in Atlanta while Julio Jones is there. I mean, Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley. These people are playing on the same team with Julio Jones, getting more notoriety than Julio Jones, and going and getting paid elsewhere. While Julio Jones is just, people draft him in the first round of fantasy leagues and are kind of getting screwed over.
Yeah, squeaky wheel kind of thing, right?
No ROI. Okay, Bills.
What does that mean?
Return on investment. Okay. Bills at Steelers. Pittsburgh, a 1-point favorite. Me and John got a little something on this. Shout out John Kalunga, King Kalunga.
The Bills are a 1-point favorite? That's it?
Pittsburgh's a 1-point
Pittsburgh's favorite. A 1-point
Pittsburgh's favorite. 1-point favorite.
Oh, wow.
At home.
All right. I know the Lockery boys.
I think the Bills is good.
I was going to say
the Bills in our little thing.
I was going to say, I know the Lockery boys aren't watching this game, so shout out to Chubby and Fat Boy.
That's their names?
Yeah.
Jesus.
What? That's their nicknames, man.
You haven't called anyone on the show. You've referenced like 12 people, and you've not said one actual name.
Yeah, I know. That's how we do.
Shout out the Dirty Dozen. Shout out Emos,
right.
or shout out Chubby Boy and
Chubby and Fatty,
Fat Lips, or whatever you said.
Pink Glitter.
Yeah.
I mean, we got there's all nicknames. We're from the 90s, man. We don't use government. All right. But I'm gonna go with Buffalo too.
I got you on my phone as Christopher.
All right. Well,
Sanchez with a capital A.
Yeah.
Just so they know how to say it. Sanchez.
We are this. Okay. We all go Buffalo though.
Yeah. Hey, so compare and contrast Josh Allen, Big Ben in the prime.
Prime?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I mean, I
don't think we've seen Josh Allen's prime yet. Yeah. Personally.
But I think we're
on the precipice.
We're getting there. Yeah.
I think. I mean, he needs to do something get in the playoffs and do something there.
Yeah. But I'm not talking about
because year 2.
Chris loves to talk about
year 2. Big Ben won a Super Bowl.
Big Ben is a good leader and a locker room presence. I'm talking about just strictly like on the field talent and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, on the field talent, I think
they're comparable.
They're very comparable. Yeah.
And I think Josh Allen is significantly faster.
But he's got to win. He's got to win in postseason. And I think that's where Chris is coming from. And we want to see when it's crunch time, can you be proven? But the eye test, I think they're comparable.
Because I mean, like size, they're Josh Allen is huge, and so is Big Ben.
And he's got like you say, he's got better wheels.
Yeah, and I think because I mean, old school Ben used to run for real, and I think and Josh Allen probably runs a little bit more, but has more running ability than Big Ben. And I think Josh Allen, this might be kind of a hot take, but I think Josh Allen has a stronger arm than Big Ben in his prime.
Give it to him.
Because Big Ben was always, I mean, that's Big Ben.
Yeah.
Like he known for like having this big arm and kind of making a name for these deep threat receivers. Like I mean, I don't want to necessarily say he made Antonio Brown, but like making a name for these big deep threat type receivers.
Plexico.
Right. And
Lima Swede.
Give it to him, Chris.
and I mean, and Josh Allen, that dude has a rocket, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're just talking talent level.
Ginormous Josh.
Yeah, there you go. Ginormous Josh.
Hot takes.
Yeah, I think he's right up there, and he might even be a little bit better than Big Ben just because of his wheels. And I don't, and then maybe he's a little bit smarter when he runs too, because I remember Big Ben used to try to run people over.
Josh Allen be running people over too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
successfully.
Yeah, and when you're a quarterback though, like when you're young like that,
that's what when they're young,
and it's like hey, think about 5-6 years from now, like that when you're trying to run over that safety, that you're gonna feel that,
Look at Cam
down the road.
And I think the argument, I heard Joe Thomas argue this in his podcast, was when they were talking about Josh Allen and Lamar, talking about sustainability and if that play style holds up and can you stay healthy. Joe Thomas argued that Josh Allen is the better bet in terms of long-term success because he'll be able to hold himself up more. But Josh Allen runs 1 more physically than Lamar does.
I don't buy that argument from Joe Thomas. I know he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but look at Russell Wilson. He's smaller than both of those guys by like a foot.
Right,
and
but
he never gets touched because it's the way he runs. And
exactly,
he's a baseball player.
Exactly.
So if both of those guys, Allen and Jackson, they just need to learn how to slide a little bit better. And I did see Lamar in that game on Thursday.
Well, Lamar runs out of bounds.
That's what I'm saying. He's learning from Russell Wilson to run out of bounds. Don't take those big hits, only if it's necessary. And the only big hit I saw him take is when he broke Vic's record for rushing.
Right, like Michael Vick never used to really slide, but he would run out of bounds.
Exactly.
He would run out of bounds. And Kyler Murray is really the first one. I mean, I guess you could say Russell Wilson, but especially Kyler Murray, and you watch him play, like that dude will slide. Like that dude is
He's a baseball player.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen, like he runs with his weight, like he runs with his size, and that I feel like is what brings the possibility of injury. Is not the volume of which you run, but it's how you finish those runs. Yeah. I would say
there's very few times where I think that a quarterback needs to take a punishment or try to run somebody over.
Unless you're Sam Ehlinger,
on
the goal line.
if you're and I think there's, if it's late game and you're trying to score a touchdown to win the football game, to me, that's like the only time that you really need to, as a quarterback, as a running quarterback, try to take on, some defensive backs or linebackers or anything, run out of bounds, get down, slide. I mean, you don't really need to take punishment just to get a first down.
Unless you're Charlie Brewer against Oklahoma, that dude that he trucked. Not the one that he got a concussion, the one before that.
All right, Monday Night Football, Colts at Saints. Saints 9-point favorite.
The Colts have lost the last 5 of 6. Saints coming off the 48-46 loss at home to the 49ers. 9 points?
9-point favorite at home.
I'll take the Saints.
Yeah, me too.
Let me check my show notes here. There was a stat with Jacoby Brissett talking about his QBR in the early quarters of a game versus the latter half of the game, how it significantly drops. And I think that goes to show, I mean, what do you see? What do you know about NFL offenses in early in the game is most of those plays are scripted.
Yep.
So when it comes to having to kind of take the training wheels off and kind of be an NFL quarterback and be a guy that reads the field and is able to, I mean, not necessarily call your own plays, but almost call your own shots. That's when we're kind of seeing the lack of maturation for Jacoby Brissett. I mean, I think he has the potential to turn into a really good quarterback, but I think this stat shows that this isn't a team necessarily that's on the rise just yet. And I think the Saints are a team that are kind of on a mission to kind of prove the haters wrong after last year.
Hopefully the Colts can regain some of that early success they had.
I just took Marlon Mack out of my lineup.
Well, Marlon Mack is going to be starting on Sunday or on Monday night. So that may be something to reconsider.
I think T.Y. Hilton's coming back too.
T.Y. Hilton is coming back, that's right. So he'll have some weapons available from the earlier in the year. And, of course, we know that when Andrew Luck left, we know that Jacoby Brissett was able to take this team and win some games I didn't think he would be with his offensive line, who was doing very well, and Marlon Mack in the run game. So hopefully that could take some weight off of Jacoby Brissett.
Well, maybe the return of T.Y. Hilton does a little something for the Colts.
And misdirection, get some jet sweeps, maybe something deep down the field.
And all it does is give Jacoby another weapon.
Exactly. All right, let's bring it back to Texas. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I benched Marlon Mack for Christian Kirk in the flex.
We'll talk after the show.
And then going back to that fantasy thing, like I beat this dude 105-84.
That's right.
Last week, and I got to play him again.
That's right. You're gonna do it again then.
Play him again.
You're gonna do it again.
I'm about to put up 1,000 points on this dude.
We need to renegotiate this.
This league, man. It's a waste of my time.
Yeah, I'm sure
they need to promote me to the next tier.
All right, let's bring it back to Texas for the Houston. Hey, man, as long as I get my 10%. All right, Houston at the Titans. Titans 3-point favorite.
So
Tannehill.
So the Titans are 3-point favorite. Okay, so Texans and Titans play Week 15 and Week 17.
Yes,
they're both sitting at the top of AFC South.
Yes.
So they both basically can win and have the other team lose and then win again. And if they win both the games, they're pretty much the AFC South champions, right?
Okay.
So the Titans, for example, if they win on Sunday, and then they have to play the Saints And then the Texans play Tampa Bay, and then they play against each other again on week 17. So this is more vital of a win for Tennessee, I think, because it's going to be harder for Tennessee to beat the Saints than the Texans to beat Tampa Bay, in my opinion. But Ryan Tannehill, we've talked about it the past couple of weeks. And, we're always a little bit ahead of the curve. And, we finally, mainstream media started talking about Ryan Tannehill. And he's turned this team around. A.J. Brown is all of a sudden looking like a top wide receiver in all of the NFL.
Yeah.
How many of a points of favorite? 3?
3-point favorite. I'm taking
Deshaun Watson.
I'm taking Deshaun Watson also. I'm taking them to cover. I'll take them with the 3 points.
And I talking again about teams that are on the rise and teams that are not. I think the Texans are just their trajectory at the beginning of the season this is a game that will propel them past the Titans.
Well, I think also too, these two coaches are Belichick disciples, and so they're really going to know each other. One's an offensive mind and one's a defensive mind. So I want to see maybe Deshaun Watson get out early because I know that Vrabel's going to have all kinds of tricks up his sleeves to slow him down. So hopefully they can get off the ground quick. Do you know if I was going to ask if Will Fuller was out or not? Let me just take a look real quick to see if he was going to be able to play this week or not. I just see he's questionable. So maybe he can't get in.
If he does play, he's going to just get hurt again, probably.
Well,
check my show notes.
Sometimes all it takes is one big play, and then that kind of gets them close to the end zone or gets them into the end zone, and all you need is one to get the W.
That's true. He can score one long touchdown and then pull his hamstring while scoring that touchdown.
My ankle, my Achilles. All right, what everybody's been waiting for.
What?
Is it recording?
Huh? No, we record on the
OBS.
We record on the OBS, bro. Yeah, we record on the OBS now.
Dang, bro, I was just making sure. I know you got a tendency.
Nah, bro. Yeah,
all right.
It's recording on the OBS. We good.
The Los Angeles Rams at the Dallas Cowboys, 3:30, America's Game of the Week. Los Angeles is a 1.5 point favorite.
I'll take the Rams.
I'll take the Rams by 8.
All right, all you Dallas Cowboy fans, I know what I've been saying all year, but I am taking Dak Prescott and Jalen Smith to win this game. Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Just taking it.
I mean,
and I'm going to get a shirt, and I'm going to say, I tried to tell you. That's what I'm going to get a shirt, and I'm going to say, I tried to tell you.
Wow.
You got a lot more faith in the Cowboys than I do.
This is a game where I think, and I know I said this with Chicago, but Dallas needs to turn it around, and if it's going to be any week, it's this week. That's the way I feel about it.
I think Jared Goff stinks, but Jared Goff greater than Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'll have to go with that. So I mean,
he's not even good.
He's not.
Shout out to all our fans checking out Recon Athlete, and y'all know how much we've talked to Cowboys the past few weeks. It's been a frustrating season, especially for me as a lifelong Cowboys fan. I mean, I'm setting my expectations low, really low right now in Week 15. So if I pick the Rams and the Cowboys win, yay! But I'm just down on this Cowboys team right now. Down on Jerry Jones, down on Jason Garrett, down on Dak Prescott, down on Zeke Elliott. I don't think there's anybody on this Cowboys team that I'm excited about to watch play. So
my dad is just
down, man.
Down in the dumps on Sundays.
Oh, bro,
he's a Cowboys fan.
Not a good day for him. Yeah, when even when the Cowboys don't play till like 7 o'clock, he's just down in the dumps all day.
Yeah,
he knows what's coming.
Well, hopefully the Cowboys will, we'll go with Paul.
That's fine. We'll see what happens. 3:30.
All right,
tomorrow.
It'll probably be America's Game of the Week.
Yeah, America's Game of the Week.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for Recon Athlete podcast episode number 34. Don't forget Lake Travis versus North Shore on KNVA at Kelly Reeves Athletic Complex this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And before that, Westlake versus Katy Taylor on KBVO at 2:30. That's at McLean Stadium in Waco. Shout out to the Baylor Bears. All right, I want to shout out to, of course, Kreitz Market and Lawnman ATX. Special shout out to Snoop Daniel,
Sleepy Snoop.
Sleepy Snoop, our audience of one, Stefano Sanchez over there hanging out. I think he's Stefano. You still here? Oh, he might have left already. All right, shout out to Cuz. He might have got out of here. And then of course we want to shout out to everybody that joined us on Facebook Live. All right, Paul, do your thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if y'all enjoying the podcast, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. Share this if you know somebody who might enjoy our content. And as always, turn on that bell for the notifications. We gone.